An arrogant young lady learns humility from a hotel owner she humiliated at first. Discover the transformative power of humility in this heartwarming tale. The luxurious Golden Leaf Hotel was bustling with activity, its opulent lobby filled with guests from all walks of life. Amidst the hustle and bustle, a young woman named Rachel strutted in, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor. With her designer handbag slung over her shoulder and an air of superiority surrounding her, she commanded attention without even trying. Rachel was the epitome of entitlement, and her attitude was reflected in every aspect of her being. She had grown up with a silver spoon in her mouth and had never had to work a day in her life. Her parents' wealth had afforded her every luxury, and she had grown accustomed to getting whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted it. As she made her way to the hotel's cafe, Rachel spotted a waiter polishing a cup with a white cloth. She approached him, her eyes scanning the menu board above the counter. "Excuse me," she said, her tone dripping with disdain. "I'll have a cappuccino, and make sure it's perfect. I don't want any mistakes." The waiter, whose name was Ethan, looked up and smiled politely. "Of course, ma'am. I'll get that right out to you." As he began to prepare her drink, Rachel noticed a small speck of dust on the rim of the cup. Her face contorted in disgust. She snatched the cup from Ethan's hand and slammed it down on the counter. "This cup is dirty," she exclaimed, her voice loud enough for the entire cafe to hear. "Do I need to do everything myself? Get me a new cup, and make sure it's spotless." Ethan's smile never wavered, but his eyes betrayed a hint of annoyance. "I apologize for the inconvenience, ma'am. Let me get you a new cup right away." As he expertly crafted a new cappuccino, Rachel couldn't help but continue belittling him, her words cutting deep. "You people really need to learn how to do your jobs properly," she sneered. "I swear, I've seen better service at a fast food joint." Ethan handed her the new cup, his expression neutral. "Enjoy your drink, ma'am." Rachel took a sip, her face scrunched up in distaste. "This is terrible," she spat. "Who trained you?" "A chimpanzee?" The cafe patrons began to stare, embarrassed by Rachel's behavior. Ethan, however, remained calm, his smile still plastered on his face. "I apologize if the drink doesn't meet your expectations, ma'am. Would you like me to remake it?" Rachel rolled her eyes. "Just bring me the manager. I demand to speak to someone who knows what they're doing." As Ethan walked away to supposedly fetch the manager, Rachel sat back, satisfied with herself. She had humiliated the waiter, and she felt superior. Little did she know her life was about to take a drastic turn. Ethan walked away, his expression still neutral, but his eyes flashing with a hint of determination. He entered the cafe's back office, where his team of baristas and waiters were busy prepping for the lunch rush. The aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air, and the sound of sizzling milk created a soothing melody. "Ethan, what's going on?" one of the baristas asked, noticing the look on his face. Ethan smiled wryly. "Just dealing with a difficult customer. I'll take care of it." He walked into his office, a small, cozy space filled with certificates and awards he'd received over the years. Ethan sat down behind his desk, his eyes scanning the CCTV footage of the cafe. He watched as Rachel berated his staff, her behavior appalling. Ethan's expression turned stern. He'd built the Golden Leaf Hotel from scratch, and he took pride in providing exceptional service. He'd trained his staff to handle even the most difficult customers with poise and professionalism. As he watched Rachel's antics, Ethan's mind began to wander. He thought about his childhood, growing up in a low-income household, working multiple jobs to support his family. He remembered the struggles, the late nights and the early mornings. But most of all, he remembered the fire that had driven him to succeed. Ethan's eyes narrowed as he watched Rachel. He knew exactly how to handle her kind. With a calm, collected demeanor, he stood up and walked out of the office, ready to face the storm that was Rachel. Rachel sat in the cafe, sipping her lukewarm cappuccino, her annoyance growing by the minute. She glanced at her watch for what felt like the 100th time, tapping her foot impatiently on the floor. The sounds of the cafe, the gentle hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, and the soft jazz music playing in the background, only seemed to heighten her frustration. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a tall, imposing figure emerged from the back office. His broad shoulders and chiseled features commanded attention, and his piercing gaze seemed to bore into Rachel's very soul. He was dressed in a tailored suit that accentuated his physique, and a hint of a smile played on his lips. "Good morning, ma'am," he said, his deep voice dripping with politeness. "I'm Ethan, the owner of the Golden Leaf Hotel. I understand you've been having some issues with our service?" Rachel's eyes widened as she took in Ethan's imposing figure. For a moment she was taken aback, but her arrogance quickly reasserted itself. "Oh, finally," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I've been waiting for what feels like hours. Your waiter is incompetent. He can't even make a simple cappuccino." Ethan's expression remained neutral, but his eyes seemed to gleam with amusement. "I apologize for the inconvenience, ma'am," he said. "I'll make sure to speak with our staff and ensure that our service meets your expectations." Rachel snorted. "I doubt it. I've been to better-run establishments. You people need to learn how to treat your customers with respect." As she spoke, she gestured dismissively with her hand, her diamond-encrusted watch glinting in the light. Ethan's smile grew wider, and he leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a hint of challenge. "I understand that you're upset, ma'am," he said, "but I assure you we're doing our best to provide excellent service. Perhaps I can offer you a complimentary drink or dessert to make up for the inconvenience?" Rachel's face contorted in disgust. "You think a free drink or dessert will make up for the horrible service I've received?" "Please, I demand to speak to your manager." Ethan's smile never wavered, but his eyes seemed to flash with amusement. "I'm afraid I'm the owner, ma'am," he said, "and I'll be happy to take care of your concerns personally." Rachel's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly regained her composure. "Well, in that case, I'm going to make sure to report you to the Better Business Bureau," she said. "Your hotel is a complete disaster." Ethan nodded, his expression still polite. "I understand, ma'am," he said. "I'll make sure to provide you with the necessary contact information. But before you go, may I offer you a tour of our facilities? Perhaps it will give you a better understanding of our operations." Rachel raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. "Fine," she said, "but I'm not promising I'll change my review." As they walked out of the cafe, Ethan's staff watched with interest, wondering what would happen next. As they walked through the hotel's facilities, Ethan pointed out various amenities, from the state-of-the-art gym to the luxurious spa. Rachel's eyes widened as she took in the opulence, but she refused to admit that she was impressed. "This is all well and good," she said, "but it doesn't excuse the horrible service I received." Ethan smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "I understand, ma'am," he said, "but I'd like to show you something. Follow me, please." He led her to a small room filled with letters and reviews from satisfied customers. Rachel's eyes scanned the pages, her expression skeptical. "These are just testimonials," she said. "Anyone can fabricate those." Ethan chuckled, a low rumbling sound. "Perhaps," he said, "but I'd like to show you something else. Come with me." He led her to the hotel's kitchen, where the chefs were busy prepping for the lunch service. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, and Rachel's stomach growled in response. As they watched, Ethan explained the intricacies of running a hotel, from managing staff to sourcing ingredients. Rachel's eyes began to glaze over, but she refused to admit that she was bored. "This is all very interesting," she said, "but it doesn't change the fact that your waiter was incompetent." Ethan smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "I understand, ma'am," he said, "but I'd like to offer you a chance to experience our service firsthand. Would you like to work a shift in our cafe?" Rachel's eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment she was taken aback. "Me? Work here?" she repeated, her voice incredulous. Ethan nodded. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I think it would be a valuable experience for you. You can see firsthand how we operate and perhaps learn a thing or two about customer service." Rachel's face contorted in disgust. "You expect me to work as a waitress?" she spat. "I think not." Ethan's smile never wavered. "Very well, ma'am," he said, "but I think you would find it enlightening. However, I'll give you a choice. You can either work a shift in our cafe or pay for your meal in a different way." Rachel raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. "What do you mean?" she asked. Ethan's smile grew wider. "I mean that instead of paying with money, you can pay with your time," he said. "You can work a shift in our cafe, and we'll consider the cost of your meal covered." Rachel's eyes narrowed, her mind racing with possibilities. Rachel hesitated, unsure of what to do. Part of her wanted to storm out of the hotel and never look back, but another part of her was curious about Ethan's proposal. She had never worked a day in her life, and the thought of experiencing the service industry firsthand was both intriguing and terrifying. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll do it, but just for one shift, and I'm not promising I'll be any good." Ethan smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "I wouldn't expect anything less, ma'am," he said. "Let's get you started." He led her to the cafe where his staff was busy prepping for the lunch rush. Rachel's eyes widened as she took in the chaos, her mind racing with doubts. As she began her training, Rachel quickly realized that being a waitress was not as easy as she thought. She struggled to take orders, spilled drinks, and tripped over her own feet. The customers were patient and kind, but Rachel's pride was wounded. By the end of her shift, Rachel was exhausted and demoralized. She had never worked so hard in her life, and she couldn't believe how difficult it was to provide excellent service. As she changed out of her uniform, Ethan approached her, a smile on his face. "How was your experience?" he asked, his eyes glinting with amusement. Rachel sighed, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "It was hard," she admitted. "I had no idea being a waitress was so difficult." Ethan nodded. "I told you it wasn't easy," he said. "But you did well for your first shift. You're a quick learner." Rachel looked up at him, a hint of respect in her eyes. "Thanks," she said. "I think I learned a thing or two about customer service." Ethan smiled. "I'm glad to hear that," he said. "Perhaps you'll think twice before treating our staff poorly in the future." Rachel's face flushed with shame, and she looked away, her eyes welling up with tears. As Rachel left the hotel, she felt a sense of humility wash over her. She had never realized how hard it was to provide excellent service, and she couldn't believe how poorly she had treated Ethan's staff. She thought about all the times she had berated waiters and waitresses, and her face flushed with shame. As she walked away from the hotel, Rachel felt a sense of regret. She had been so caught up in her own entitlement that she had forgotten about the people who worked hard to provide for her. She thought about Ethan's kindness and patience, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for him. Over the next few days, Rachel couldn't shake off the feeling of humility. She started to see things from a different perspective, and she began to appreciate the hard work that people did to provide for her. She started to treat people with more kindness and respect, and she noticed a change in the way people responded to her. One day as she was walking down the street, Rachel saw Ethan standing outside the hotel. He smiled and waved, and Rachel felt a sense of warmth in her heart. She walked over to him, and they chatted for a bit. "Thank you for the experience," she said, her voice sincere. "I learned a lot about customer service, and I appreciate the way you treated me." Ethan smiled, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You're welcome," he said. "I'm glad I could teach you a thing or two. You're a quick learner." Rachel smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude towards him. As they chatted, Rachel realized that she had misjudged Ethan. He wasn't just a hotel owner. He was a kind and compassionate person who cared about his staff and his customers. She felt a sense of respect for him, and she started to see him in a different light. Over the next few weeks, Rachel found herself returning to the hotel again and again. She would sit in the cafe and chat with Ethan, and she started to feel a sense of comfort and familiarity. She learned more about the hotel's operations, and she started to appreciate the hard work that Ethan and his staff did. As she got to know Ethan better, Rachel found herself drawn to him. She admired his kindness and his compassion, and she started to feel a sense of attraction towards him. But she was hesitant to express her feelings, fearing that he might not feel the same way. One day as she was sitting in the cafe, Ethan approached her with a smile. "I've been thinking," he said, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You've been coming to the hotel a lot lately, and I've enjoyed getting to know you. Would you like to join me for dinner sometime?" Rachel's heart skipped a beat as she looked up at him. She felt a sense of excitement and nervousness, and she couldn't believe that Ethan might feel the same way about her. "I'd love to," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Great," he said. "I'll pick you up at 7 p.m. on Friday." Rachel nodded, feeling a sense of anticipation and excitement. She couldn't wait to see where things might go with Ethan, and she felt grateful for the experience that had brought them together. As she left the hotel, Rachel felt a sense of hope and possibility. She had learned a valuable lesson about humility and compassion, and she had met someone who might just change her life forever. She smiled to herself, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation for what the future might hold. Friday evening arrived and Rachel felt like a kid on Christmas morning. She put on her favorite dress, did her hair, and waited for Ethan to arrive. When he knocked on the door, she felt a flutter in her chest. He looked dashing in his suit, and his smile lit up the room. Their dinner date was everything Rachel had hoped for. They talked about their dreams, aspirations, and values. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and Rachel felt like she'd known Ethan forever. As the night drew to a close, Ethan walked Rachel home, his hand brushing against hers. "Would you like to do this again?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with hope. Rachel smiled, her heart racing. "I'd love to," she replied. As they said their goodbyes, Rachel realized that she'd learned a valuable lesson. Humility and compassion could change her life in ways she never thought possible. By appreciating the hard work of others and treating them with kindness, she'd attracted someone special into her life. Their relationship blossomed, and Rachel found herself falling deeply in love with Ethan. She learned to appreciate the little things, the beauty of everyday moments, and the joy of connecting with others. One day, as they sat on a hill overlooking the city, Ethan turned to Rachel and said, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. You've shown me that love can be kind, genuine, and beautiful." Rachel's heart overflowed with happiness. She knew that she'd found her soulmate in Ethan. The moral of the story is that kindness, humility, and compassion can change your life. By appreciating others and treating them with respect, you open yourself up to new experiences, relationships, and opportunities. Sometimes it takes a humbling experience to realize the value of the people around us. Rachel's journey taught her that love, kindness, and connection can lead to a life of purpose, joy, and fulfillment. In the end, Rachel and Ethan's love story became a reminder that the best relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, and kindness. They lived happily ever after, grateful for the experience that brought them together. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching.